personal finances. And so let me propose this question to you. How can, how does personal finances, uh, how can personal finances impact what we're trying to do with our business or organization?
A great deal actually for me. It will be like, you gotta realize personal things that you have to deal with. It could be something small as gas to get to a class because you paid all your bills or something. We all know in San Francisco, unless you are in a bigger position, you get paid anywhere from, I want to say, 17 to probably $25, $26 an hour. And for a parent with children, that doesn't help.
Right.
Because if you really look at that, that's probably the average of $1,600.
Right.
The average rent for that is almost $800-900. Once you take that away, the cost of food and all that.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't have residual income coming in, like streams of income coming in, that which is taken out for the necessities of life, not just those things that you desire. It becomes a struggle because you have to make very peculiar decisions.
Right.
That's more important than that moment.
Right.
And if you're serious, then you might do things like making investments over, making this investment, taking it out of my home, investing into my education, investing into my craft, investing into my business. You're in hopes of turning it over.
Right.
Pushing it, trapping over where it start running out.
Right.
You're going to see the benefit.
Right. Right.
It's just not the immediate results.
True.
And so it's also an indication of probably how your business, depending on how your personal finances look, it will reflect how your business finances will probably look, because the way you handle finances, you're going to handle that across the board, whether it be your own money or it be someone else's money. So definitely there's a need for financial education on the level where it not only sustains you as an individual, but it sustains the bigger outlook and picture of what you're trying to do for a community of people.
Right. Right. And so, again, it's super important that this is brought up. And one of the reasons why we bring it up is not one acknowledging that you're the person that's here today, but even for the folks who do watch it later on or whatever, we want to cover a number of topics just because some of these things come up and it's not something that's a big priority at the time, right? We go, well, listen, I'm not really focused on my finances right now. I'm really trying to build this other thing, right? Or I'm really trying to focus on this area. I'm not really worried about, let's say, my physical health. And so it's just important that we touch on these different topics because it has shown up, honestly, whether it's financial literacy in terms of like, I didn't know that I could do this, but that if I did this, this would impact my business, or if I didn't do this, this would impact my business. So that's not a matter of you just not taking care of stuff. That means you don't know a certain amount of knowledge about the stuff that we have, some of the stuff we've talked about before. And then there are the systems or practices or habits that we have around money that can impact how we not only make decisions for our own personal finances, but when we do get the grant for $50,000 and we either have to float some of that, how do we manage to do that? Do we have money that we're saving so that when we do get another grant and they don't give us the money immediately, that we have some money that we can have in reserves, right? Are we actively saving our money? And if we're not doing that, then it's probably because we're not really doing that in our personal life, right? We're probably putting it all on the line and then hoping everything works out in the end. But in reality, there has to be some active saving there has to be an intentional effort to, like you just mentioned, invest in yourself, invest in your business or organization, so that in a number of years you can expect to have better types of, if you will, employees, better types of grant opportunities, better opportunities at different facilities, whatever it may be. But having that outlook that goes, I'm not just trying to make ends meet today, and that's all that matters. It's like, how do I make ends meet today? But how do I set myself up with the money I have now, that a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we'd be better off because of what we did 3 years ago, which honestly can be hard for someone who never gets to think like that, because their money is never so long so they can not just think about what's right now. We got to pay the rent, we got to pay the mortgage, or we got to pay this car note, and we got to figure out how we're going to eat. That's all I'm worried about, And so until we start getting into spaces where we have money left over at the end of the month and we're not spending it, because that's also optional too, right? We could say, well, yeah, I have money at the end of the month, but I really want to go on vacation. And so, I spent it on this, or I put it on the credit card, whatever it may be. All that to say, is I just wanted to speak to some of the personal things, because I know we're going to talk about marketing. I know we're going to talk about funding. We're going to talk about budgeting and fundraising and stuff like that. But if we aren't taking care of ourselves mentally, physically, in this case, financially, emotionally, our relationships and all these things, we can find ourselves not performing at the job, not taking care of ourselves on the job, not taking care of our workers on the job, and seeing reaping the effects of ourselves not being good, our staff not being good, or our finances not being good, and seeing how that shows up in the lack of people who are satisfied at your company, or lack of clients that are satisfied with you guys' services. So the next slide just brings up this slide actually brings up the seven areas of life in terms it's more visible. One is career, financial, have spiritual, physical, intellectual, family, and social. And all of these are, I want to say there's a variety of these. When I've looked up a will of life, or I looked up 7 areas of life, I've seen a number of different iterations of this. Sometimes spiritual is just focused on mental. Intellectual would be something like education. Family might be part of social for some graphs and charts. So family and friends would be in one category. But these are just meant to address a number of different areas. And so one question I would also pose to you, Leticia, is what is an area that you feel like either may need to be included on top of this, or what is one that you may feel like can be blended in with another area?
I know you said the mental, physical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I also think there should be an emotional piece, because our mental state and our emotional state are totally different.
I agree.
And the reason why I say that is because they say a lot of times your mind is feeling me, but your body is feeling me, but your mind is on another side of the town. And I think that's our mental and our emotional disconnecting.
Yeah.
We show up in place. That's why we can be in these type of places, and at the end be like, oh, what you say?
Yeah.
Right? Because physically and mentally we're here, but emotionally we've checked out.
Yeah. And
we're only showing up now to check off balances and meet deadlines.
Right.
We're not really benefiting. So I definitely believe the emotional piece needs to be added or to be in conjunction with the mental and physical piece.
Right.
I think they're like a trinity.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely have seen the dichotomy or the separation of mental and physical in relationships. I've seen it in myself, where I've been in a good place mentally, but my emotions have overtaken however I feel mentally, and that's really good that I have a good space mentally, but my heart is hurting for different number of reasons, or vice versa, right? And so all that to say is that there are some things that we can do to affect change in some of these areas that we should actively do. And there are some things that are obvious. Everybody knows it. And there are some things that we don't know, until we ask the questions, run into the experts, do the research. And so we do want to also try to address some of those things to the best of our ability too. Where's the cursor? Okay. So question of the day, when is the last time that you changed? You don't have to answer that right now, but what I have asked this for is for the purpose of speaking to the times where we actually did make changes in our lives. Not sometimes, making a change in our lives is rarely easy, and it rarely comes just because we wanted to. Usually when we make a change because we have to. We make a change because something happened that either made us super uncomfortable or it really inspired us to make a huge change. And that also could be something that's super uncomfortable. But it could be something that's just amazing, right? You may meet somebody, have a great relationship, and they make you want to do something great for yourself. They make you want to get something right in your life. They make you want to change. I think about having a child. I think about getting a new job or a new position. I think about moving to a new location. We got this house, whatever it may be. Sometimes those things make us go, okay, listen, everybody stop. Before we go here, we got to leave some stuff at this location. We got to leave some stuff at that job. We got to leave some stuff in this year, 2023. Look, we're done with that, right? So all of these things can be good chances for us to make a change. But just really speaking to that, because the reality is Level Up is meant to help people make changes in their business. But we also have to acknowledge that some changes won't happen unless some changes are made personally. Yeah. We have to make some personal changes too. It may be time management. It may be, like we talked about, money management. It may be the things that we dedicate our energy to, the people we spend time with, the places that we go. Yeah. Those all things can impact what we do and the changes that we want to make in our lives. Let's see here. Okay, so the first question is that this will talk about relationships and community, both physical and virtual. And I bring this up because I feel like I have gotten some, if not a lot of benefit from both physical and virtual relationships. People I hang out with in person, friends that I know from school, from work, from different. Therefore, consider, if nothing else,
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
Right. And so honestly, there are pages on Instagram, there are pages on YouTube, there are friends on Facebook that I have to unfollow.
Yes.
there are whole topics, if you will, that I go, listen, I'm sorry, I can't listen to you guys anymore.
Yes.
A quick example is I was working with a nutritionist, and the nutritionist said, we got to work on, what did he want me to do? He wanted me to track what I was eating, but he didn't want me to count. He didn't want me to change my, let's say, how much food I was eating each day. He just wanted me to pay attention to what I was eating. So I go, fine, cool. By the end of the week, not only did I change what I was eating, but I probably changed, not only did I change it, but I changed it with an idea and a whole other number, blah, blah, blah. And we met on the phone again. He goes, how did it go? And I go, okay, this is good news, right? So not only did I track what I ate, but I also ate this instead of that. And he goes, why'd you do that? And I go, because I was following somebody who was telling me that if you really want to lose weight, this is what you got to do. And you can't just track these, you want to track this as well. And I said, isn't that great? And he was like, no. And I was like, I was so shocked. I was so shocked. Then speaking of something that we also spoke about with Chicia a couple of weeks ago, when you were bringing up the other books about financial literacy and learning more about money and stuff like this. And the reality is that while the information is good, sometimes too much information at one time can confuse us, and not in the sense of like we don't know what we're doing, but in the sense that we may take extra steps to do one thing that could be taken care of with just following simple directions. Yes, we want to, for instance, save some money. So I'm going to put some money away each month, each paycheck. That's good. And then somebody else says, you should be a day trader. And you go, yes, investing is good. So I'm going to take a portion of what I'm saving to be a day trader. And then you start day trading and you recognize how hard it is to pick it up. And then someone else lets you know, oh, this is going to take at least a good number of months so before you make any profit, because this is not easy. And you go, oh, well, I thought just because it was a good idea that it would be good. And the reality is that all good ideas applied at the same time don't work together. It's not good at all. Exactly, right? All that to say is when we're working on something, when we're working on one thing, we want to make sure that we're doing the thing that we're trying to do and doing that well. And that may mean that we want to listen to only so many voices. I think about schizophrenia just briefly, and the reality that people with schizophrenia hear numerous voices at once. And if you're trying to appeal to every voice, you could find yourself doing things that don't make a lot of sense. And that's one example. But all that to say is eventually what I did, and I actually work with a trainer right now that I actually unfollowed very briefly. Didn't unfriend them, but I unfollowed them. Because I said, I'm listening to you, and I know that you're not agreeing with the person that I'm following. Yeah. And so while you have great things to say, I have to not listen to you, because when I listen to you, you're going to make me do some extra stuff. Yeah. You're going to make me do some other stuff. Yeah. And so there's some pages that I stopped looking at, not because they're bad information, because they're just not what I'm being prescribed at the very moment. So I'll bring up this question: what composed your winning circles? And this brings up again, okay, you made a change in your life at one point in time. Things were going, things were going a certain way, and they improved. Who were the instrumental individuals? Who were the instrumental change makers that you had around at that moment that made you go, man, they're helpful. Those are some helpful folks. Now, just what we're just taking into consideration, what we just spoke to, the reality is that regardless of who's in our circle, we want to have people in our circle speaking to us at the right time. If we're listening to everybody at the same time, then we can find ourselves, again, not making a lot of progress. But if we say, you know what, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to you and nobody else about this thing until I get to a place where you say, man, you could also do this now. If you want to, now that we got your protein down, we could also focus on your carbs. But we had to first get to a place where you were even looking at protein because you weren't paying attention to protein. One thing that I've learned since I've come back into this space with this particular person that I wasn't learning at first was you want to eat meat, but you want to eat lean meats. You don't want to just say every meat is fine because it has protein. You want to eat lean meats that are close to fat-free or as close to fat-free as possible. And I've never heard that in my life. No one's ever been like, dude, you want to look for lean meat, whether it's chicken breast or turkey breast or, shrimp or whitefish. I've never heard people say that. So now that I'm in a place where I'm actually paying attention to one person, now they can actually give me the information and I can apply it and see the results. But if I was listening to him and her and him, I would get three different opinions and they may not agree, right? They may actually go against one another. So I do want to ask, this is just as an example, when I think of your winning circle, when you think of your winning circle, who are two people that immediately come to mind?
I don't. I really don't.
No circle.
I don't.
Uh-huh.
So what I did benefit from is I follow a lot of people who I admire like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I follow like Pastor Keon Henderson,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Todd,
Mm-hmm.
Miles Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of I'm into a lot of spiritual. I
Mm-hmm.
won't say churches. I'm
Mhm.
into people who are spiritual.
I hear that.
Who's also talking about elevating your life, both on a spiritual and a business level.
Right.
And that makes sense to me. That has always made sense to me as a kid.
Mhm.
I just thought civilized people have life in a decent and ordered way.
Right. I know what you mean.
Not perfect,
Right.
but
Doesn't have to be
things are
perfect.
lined up in a way where in the end you should see some results that not only benefit you, your family, but also the people that you're serving.
Right.
However, my circle don't think like that. I come from the
Mhm.
streets and my circle still think like the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a hard place to be in as well.
Yeah.
Because while you're trying to have a business attitude, are you trying to elevate, your friend is still trying to turn up.
Right.
And so you have to make up your mind that what category in my life do I have to place these people in order for me to actually progress and move forward.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's even with family.
Oh yeah.
And so that's where I'm at. I do have Tanika from DVRA,
Mm-hmm.
DRBA,
I know what you
the
mean.
mobile thing. I appreciate her contribution,
Right.
how she's always been willing to share information with me. She's always been like that.
Right.
And then, of course, the women who were on the panel, of course, to some extent, they're an inspiration to me because I've watched each and every one of them evolve or grow, but they're not in my immediate circle.
Yeah.
They're just in desired circles.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I hear that. And so honestly, I think what you were just saying was speaking to exactly what I was saying just a little bit earlier, the physical versus the virtual, right? Because I completely not only agree, but I have those folks too, right? And honestly, some folks, my top 5 list has changed sometimes, you know what I mean? Like the person who was 5th was first for a season, and the person who was first moved down to 3rd because somebody else was speaking something that I needed to hear at that season that they weren't saying when they were at first. And I'm like, yo, like you're number 1, you got all the answers. And I'm like, ooh, you ain't got the answers to this. Like what I'm dealing with, you ain't helping with none of this. I need somebody else, right? And so that speaks to all the authors, the books that have been pivotal in my life. It speaks to the motivational speakers, both on Instagram and Facebook, and YouTube. But also, like you just said, pastors, speakers, different leaders of different churches, right? Congregations. You mentioned one that I don't know their name, but I may need to know it. So I'll ask you about that too. There is, I want to say one, there's Eric Thomas, and I may have a video of his that we can watch for just a brief second.
I got to meet him in real life.
Me too.
Yeah, I got to meet him at the NAACP. I think it's a 25-year celebration.
Uh-huh.
I got to meet him and Yusef Bey from the
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to meet him.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Really, really great individuals.
Right.
Mr. Thomas is someone I follow,
Uh-huh.
but one of the chaperones who was on a trip with us, she went to school with him.
Nice.
And so she gave him a call while we were there in the hotel he was staying at.
Uh-huh.
With the kids. So that was pretty
Nice.
cool.
Yeah. Super personable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's both one of his strengths and one of his weaknesses. They'll be like, Eric, like, dude, like, we gotta go. He was like, but so yeah, so things like that, right? Like, so like I said, I've seen him, I've watched his stuff online. They really spoke to me in a certain season, and they were, he's like, I want to have this conference. So one time he came to San Francisco to speak, and then he spoke later again, almost like later that week or earlier that week at another place, at the African American Arts and Cultural Center, and I went to that. But I also saw him speak at like a hotel. I think it was like the West End over in Oakland, over in San Francisco, like in the financial district. And that was really nice and stuff. But I also went to Atlanta to go see him. So his speeches and stuff have been really impactful for me. And then there were times where they weren't, right? There were times in my romantic relationship with my wife where I was like, dude, like, I don't know, that's not getting us where I thought it was going to get us. I'm doing these things, I'm applying this mentality to this, and that works with this area. But for this, I got to do something different. And so that's something that has happened. All that to say is that definitely composes a circle for you. It doesn't have to be in person. And I hear that too, whether we're talking about family and friends. There are certain folks where I'm like, yo, like, and to be honest, there are certain people that I feel like I can't get close to that are personal, because it's just not easy just to like be somebody's friend because you start calling one day, right? Like you can't just like, oh, like let's all hang out. They're like, dude, like why would we hang out? Like don't get me wrong, you're cool, yeah, but why would we? I got a family, I got this, I got business, I can't prioritize this relationship the way that you probably can because you're not there for me. There has to be like this, merging where it's like, oh, we're both important to each other, right? And so sometimes it's like, dude, like I see this guy that's local, I see this woman that's local, this person that's local, and I go, I can't be your friend, but I will stay abreast of whatever you're doing and be aware of what you're talking about because you are a leader and you're dope. We just aren't close like that, and so it's very understandable if you're the people who are admirable and inspirational aren't your closest, friends, and family.
Well, that's the thing. I don't even have a lot of admirable people. Like it's weird, right? That a lot of people are known still stuck in that state.
Right.
So when I go into places, I'm either go to spaces that I'm in.
Right.
I'm either the most knowledgeable in the circle.
Right.
Which is not good because now you need a bigger circle. Because everyone's coming to you for information.
Right.
Okay, you've reached the ceiling there.
Yeah.
Right?
I got it.
And the second part is either I'm a service because I'm connected to things and I know people and I've done work in the community for so long. That's about the only kind of real phone calls I get. Like either me helping somebody or me assisting someone. There's rarely a space like this where and even in this space, I look at it as reciprocal because you're helping me, but then I'm able to at least have a dialogue with you where you're able to say, okay, that I'm gonna walk away from something, but hopefully well. I didn't come in here with a mindset of thinking I'm just gonna take out the space. How do I add to the space so even when the next cohort come in, you say, well, you know what? There was some things brought up in the last class that I want to now share with you all that probably wasn't shared before. And that's my take whenever I go into any room. I don't never go in like, ooh, what can I get out of this? I'm always trying to go in and say, how do I contribute? How do I add to? And how do I learn and grow from this experience? So I think that's the bigger thing for me.
Yeah. No,
And
I hear
then
that.
trying to get into spaces where you feel like, well, I want to be in that space. I
Mhm.
think they can help me.
Mhm.
Then you get in there and
Oh, I've been there too.
yeah.
I've been there. I've been there.
Oh,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
oh yeah, this was definitely just for a post. This was
Yeah.
definitely because your attitude sucks, your intentions are off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Or, because honestly, what I've run into in the last two spaces I've joined, um, well, not the last two, but I would say two of the last spaces that I've joined, there are two men's groups that I've joined, because they're not easy to come by. I'm like, oh, there's a men's group. Cool, let's go. I joined it, and what I noticed in both of these men's groups were, well, it's two different things. One, first men's group that I joined, they were super close knit. And if you weren't the ones who were like the nucleus, then it's hard to even like matter to the conversation because the conversation is already gone, and now the conversation has been going on for decades. This is just their most recent manifestation of their energy, but they've been tight for a long time. And so I noticed, oh snap, I'm in here and I'm not in here. I'm not even in, and I can't get in a matter of weeks or months. Like it's going to take years for me to get in, for them to see. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, oh, this is interesting. The next group that I joined was at a group, same situation, men's group, where the people that were in were not around. So it's national. The first one was local. The last one was national, and they were in, but they were in different states. The ones that were here were like no energy, no commitment, no focus, no let's get it, man. Like, look, I don't care what we doing, I'm showing up. Over there, they were like, I don't care what we doing, we got to make it happen. Over here, they were like, how much it costs? Yeah. They were like, when? I don't know. How about another weekend? And I was like, yo, like, it is cracking.
Are you in the Zoom and everybody camera on?
No
one's interacting, you're doing all the talking. One person might be saying 3-letter word or
And so it speaks to location, it speaks to timing, it speaks to relationships. Like I just said, like if I knew the people who were doing these things, the very people who started it, then I could be like, bro, like that's the homie. I'm in because I know him. Now, since I don't, I'm not in, and I'm going to struggle to get in. Over here, if I was in the right city, and because their leaders are like, dude, we are about this. We're about to make it happen. We're about to be all on Instagram, we're about to be all on YouTube because we are serious about what we're about to do and we're going to accomplish it. If I was in a different place, then I could have a different experience. And honestly, me and my wife, we talk about moving. We talk about moving to the Atlantas, right? We talk about moving to the places where there's a lot of things going on because I know location matters, right? And that even comes up actually. I'm not sure. Right here, I bring up where, right? Location. So the reality is location does matter in all of our things. So does timing, so does all these other things. But we can be intentional about who we're hanging out with, who we're listening to. Like you said, even on YouTube, what videos we're watching, what books we're reading. All of these things can literally be taking us somewhere else, even though we're still right at home, right? We still got the same friends, same family, same environment, same struggles. But now we have a different understanding and we have a new way of looking at things. Somebody gave all of their information to us, and now we're applying that to our situation, which is changing a number of things, right? And so all that to say is whatever area the issues have been, whatever area the issues are currently, there is information. And if we can find the right people to listen to, whether it's just a book or it's a podcast or it's a series of speeches, again, from a certain pastor or a certain speaker, we can see a number of things change in that particular area if we stay focused on how do we improve that, how do we connect with that, and how do we change our lives in the way that we want it to in this particular season. So a couple of resources. I don't want this to be too long, one, because we started at like 12:45. What I've learned about finances, part of what I've learned about budgeting comes from Dave Ramsey. He's super big on just like buckling down, cutting out whatever you got to cut out, selling what you have to sell, getting rid of what you have to get rid of, and saving what you have to save in order to not be kind of like living paycheck to paycheck. It's a very, I'm balled in my fist because that's what it is. It's a very like strong, like I don't care type of way, where some people want to have like a more gradual approach to certain situations. Like even my trainer I have a second one now. The first trainer I had said, this is the meal plan. We ain't no questions. I don't want to hear nothing. Here's the meal plan. Use it. What about, look it, Google it, look it up, talk to your friends, call you, I don't know. This is the meal plan. That's the prescription. That's all we got to talk about. Have a great day. Now, when I wanted a trainer for my wife, I said, listen, don't call it. Listen, it's great information, but they're not gonna hold no hands, right? They ain't about to listen to you. They ain't about to encourage you when you're not feeling about it. None of that's there. If you want encouragement, you want somebody to come alongside you, let's look for those people. This ain't what you need. So I feel like when it came to finances, that's what he was. He was like, listen, I ain't got no, even with Eric Thomas to some degree, I ain't got no sympathy. We can cry about it. Go cry about it, whatever. This is the prescription. You don't want to do it? Don't do it. Have a good day. Bye. And some people are just like, I can't do it. And I remember taking some of Eric Thomas' speeches. Go to like some kids, and I'm like, listen, I gotta hear this speech. It's so dope. And I'll be like, oh, look at that. Oh, he's dropping chips. And I'll turn the video off. They'll be like, that was a lot. I don't know if I can. He was so loud. Why is he yelling? Is he mad? I don't. And I was like, yeah, what you talking about? Like that, the dopest like that. Again, different energy for different folks, right? Different people need different things.
Yeah.
And so that's what he gave me. I feel like both Eric Thomas, even with Dave Ramsey, very straightforward. Here's the information, take it or leave it. It's your problem, not mine. When it came to, I would say that the fitness and so forth, a big motivation was with Eric Thomas. He wasn't like the most fit person, but he just really was. I think of also David Goggins. David Goggins is somebody who has a lot of, this is just what it is. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about what you thought about and what you grew up having to deal with. It does not matter. But super inspiring. He has a book called Can't Hurt Me. And that book is not only very inspiring, but it's super informative in terms of what his mindset has been that has allowed him to reach his goals, and how it can help other folks reach their goals as well. Another author or speaker I would suggest when I'm thinking about the different areas, I want to say relationally. Something that's been super helpful in terms of setting boundaries is a book called, it's No More Mr. Nice Guy, and I think it's Robert Glover is his name. And he basically talks about the importance of setting boundaries, not acquiescing all the time in certain relationships and trying to appease our partners, or even in our friendships, or even with our family, but setting clear boundaries for ourselves, our mental health, our spiritual health, our physical health, our financial health, but really prioritizing how we feel and what we want and what we need in our relationships. And that was super effective for me. And so I did just want to put those, one to you, but also I'll say just for the camera, anyone who listens in the future, in terms of making a change in our life. All of those people have been effective in helping me make changes. But they also have spoken to me very brashly, if you will, very harshly. But listen, I've applied these different things and they've been super helpful. But let's see, that one is the location. I think the next one, so we talked about who. Here's the what. So this is one quote from Eric Thomas. What do you want? I don't want nothing else from you when you leave this room, but for you to know what you want. And honestly, that even speaks back to some of the struggles that I've had with my nutritionist. But sometimes we could want so many things at one point in time that we end up getting nothing, right? They say something like, a rabbit can't chase, two things at the same time, or we can't chase two rabbits at the same time. Reality is that if we're trying to pursue too many goals at one time, we might not reach any of them. And so there are some times where we have to be laser focused in one direction and not in every direction that we want to be laser focused in, right? A laser literally points a lot of energy towards one point that could be pointed in many ways, but because all this light is in one very, very tight space, it's very powerful. It can cut through steel, it can cut through metal, whatever it is, because it's so focused. And one issue that I think that we run into because we want to have a nonprofit organization is that we want our nonprofit organization to do so many things. We see that we can possibly address one problem and we go, how come we don't address 5? Why, I can have one event. Why can't I have 4 events next month, right? Yeah. If I do have some type of formula that has brought me some type of success, why don't I just apply it and do more? And the reality is that if we can focus, we can become really good at one thing. Shout out to Steph Curry and the 3-point shot. Shout out to everyone. I think of Deion Sanders and how fast he is. Or any one professional who is a great player, but they have one strength that separates them from everybody else, right? It's great to be able to do everything, but if you can do one thing or 2 things really, really well, you can probably impact your environment, your team, your family in a greater way because you just focus your energy on that one thing. Me personally, that's super hard. We talked to Rochelle about that a couple weeks ago, and she's like, I really want to do this, but I also want to do this, and I want my book that does this to also do this. That is a real struggle that I run into with a lot of us, especially when we're just getting started, because we may want to appeal to 5 audiences and not just one. We may want to appeal to 3 different generations and not just one generation, right? I want to do something for the young adults, but if I really am honest, I really want to reach the kids, but I don't want to forget about the elders, right? And so next thing you know, we have a program that's trying to do too many things and therefore not doing one thing really well. YCD has done that as well. They spoke to this, know that Mr. Brookter said that they were really trying to do a lot of things when they had one particular leader. And when he came in, he said, we're going to do this one thing. And if we do this one thing really well, we're going to open up doors for the other things, but we have to get good at one thing. And so they really start to focus on workforce development more than everything else. And they said, once we got great at that, people started being like, can you also? And he goes, well, we could, we're going to need some funding and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, here, right? Because you really did so well at that. We believe in you now. We have confidence in you. We see what's happening in this area. We believe that you guys can do other things. But if you're trying to do everything, you're trying to juggle everything, you're dropping this sometimes, you drop that sometimes, you find yourself not being that effective at either one of those things that you could be potentially great at. And so that's one thing I think is really important about the what part of this graph, because we can find ourselves looking at too many different things. I bring up the vision board because it gives us some focus. It does give us some energy. It gives us some ideas of where we're trying to go, and some of the things that we need to do in order to get there. Have you ever created a vision board? Mm-hmm. And so honestly, I've done those both virtually. I've been to a couple vision board parties. What I will say, and I don't know about your experience, you could maybe share back. I find them hard to come by, like vision board parties, particularly for guys. Like I remember, I've seen a lot where it's like, women are gonna go do this, and I got the magazines, and we got scissors, and we got all this stuff, and so forth, and glitter. I remember I went to one with my wife about the first year we had met, and we went out there and we got glitter all over our clothes, glitter all in the car. Like it was just crazy, right? Because we were just trying to like glue everything and make it look all pretty. And I was like, dude, like, don't get me wrong, we had a good time, but this was just crazy. Like we can't do that every year, you know what I mean? But I just found like it was like, man, like I felt like I was looking for it around like, all the Januaries. And I just feel like if it is happening, it's probably going to be a group of women. But rarely is it ever like a bunch of dudes. It's like, dude, like we're about to sit down, we're about to write, we're about to talk, we're about to discuss, we're about to set up some goals in terms of systems, monthly goals, quarterly goals. Like we're going to do this as a group. I did see it in some of the groups that I saw online, but rarely have I seen something like that in person. But have you ever been to like a party dedicated to it or some time dedicated to it?
No, I just did it personally. I'm actually going to watch next Wednesday.
Nice.
Tenants in Betrayal Hill.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And so honestly, I do have
Thank you that you would say that, but we broke it down for the moms, the children, the seniors, and the fathers.
Nice.
So
that's good.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that the men will come out.
Yeah.
And
That's real.
involved in that.
That's real. That's real. I have used them. I do feel like they're effective. I do think that they're a great opportunity to see the number of things that you want and help us to focus on the things that we really want and or focus on the things that will help us to get the other things that we want eventually. It's one thing to say, I want to go on this vacation. It's another thing to say, I want to get a promotion or I want to get this type of job so that this will be easier to accomplish. I want to break into this type of field, or I want to do this type of complete this type of project that would also be able to make this thing more feasible in the future. So I definitely encourage that and have used those. So definitely feel encouraged, I think, with what you guys are already doing. Make sure that, utilize the benefits of it too, and even share some of that experience from what you've done with your own vision boards. Have they all been physical? Are they usually large or small?
Physical. We trifold boards. We usually come from 99 cent store. Units for inspiring words, pictures, like we said, scissors, glue.
Correct.
Things like that. So.
Yeah. No, I love it. I definitely think that, what's that called? Having it visible and then having it be discussed. It's one thing to have it do that one night or whatever, but if you can connect with some folks and stay in touch, like, man, I'm trying to do this, or I said I was going to do this, but I'm still saying I'm going to do this, and I ain't done it yet. Having folks that are like, dude, okay, like, you got to make a step. You got to make something happen in the next number of weeks so that we're not just talking about this goal, but that it's actually being accomplished, And so having community like that, and that's what I would get back with the who. Having community around that is super hard because everybody ain't talking about goals. Everybody ain't talking about changing lines and vision boards and what you're about to do in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. That's a hard conversation to have and find people having. So community around that is definitely hard. So the effort to make community around that, I definitely applaud and encourage and want to see all the photos and videos that you get from that occasion. And definitely, speaking back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, whatever effort you can, make to find those folks who are also, not just the leaders, but also the recipients of, oh man, like there's another group that I go to and we discuss this. I'm not the one that has to create it, but I'm one of the people that get to sit in the crowd and learn from people who have created it. I feel like I've been in your shoes a number of times where I've had to be the one to be okay, since nobody else is talking, let me go ahead and be the one that does that. And that works in some seasons, and sometimes I can't do it all because I wouldn't have no time for my kids. I wouldn't have no time for myself. I wouldn't have no time for my spouse. I can't be the one that creates everything that I want to see. Sometimes you need somebody else to create it because you can't devote the time and energy that you want to it because you have other obligations.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So I mean, something.
Yeah. And honestly, they're out there. You know what I mean? I honestly feel like, while I said I mentioned a couple men's groups, there's one men's group that I have found in Oakland that I feel like hasn't given me everything that I needed from every group that I ever looked for, but it's given me something. You know what I mean? So there are spaces where I'm like, okay, this works. You know what I mean? They're touching on things. They're giving me opportunities. I'm learning from these folks. This is good. It's a men's group. Power to them. I'll keep encouraging and finding keep encouraging them and supporting them. But at the same time, I will also be on the lookout for other folks who are doing similar work. And hopefully, we can do some powerful things for one another as well. So honestly, I do want to, I'll maybe touch on one more thing and we'll wrap it up. This is the win. And it's simply, all right, win. Schedules, budgets, timing, and boundaries. And so one way that we can help ourselves to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish is by devoting time to certain things every week or every day, right? Or every weekday, every Wednesday, right? Every Thursday, kind of what we're doing with Level Up. Every Thursday, we got something going on around this that we can devote our time to learn more about this particular thing. One thing that I've done recently is my mornings have been dedicated to working out. After working out, I dedicate time to the cooking and the eating and so forth. After that, I dedicate time to writing. And then after that, I dedicate time to work and so on and so forth. And then I think in the evenings, I dedicate some time to hat making. So like we talked about before, I make some hats. And honestly, with everything going on, I can't make them as fast as I want to make them. But if I just dedicate a little bit each day, by a couple weeks down the line, we have something completed. You know what I mean? Whereas normally when I first started doing it, I could probably do a bunch of things in one weekend because I have so much time I could dedicate to it. But I'm recognizing, oh man, I also got to pay attention to her, pay attention to her, pay attention to him, pay attention to me, pay attention to my health, pay attention to my family, pay attention to my friends. I'm even thinking about, and this crossed my mind a few days ago, is if I could devote a couple of like a 30-minute time period each day or each week, start with the week, each week to just text people that I never get to say hi to. Because they do cross my mind. People I haven't seen in a year, I haven't seen in a few years, seen them the other day, but I'm thinking about them, but I don't let them know because I'm thinking about them while I'm on the go. Yeah. Just take some time and just go, listen, I just want to say what's up. I don't even know if you even have time to respond. I just want to let you know. Yeah, I'm thinking about you. I miss you. Haven't seen you in so long. I hope everything is fine. Hope things are improving in this area, whatever. But just want you to know I'm thinking about you. Yeah. Instead of liking all these, right, videos and photos of people I don't even know, right? Yeah. But literally just taking time to devote to that. And part of what I got that from is the book by James Clear, Atomic Habits, which is all about setting up systems that help you to accomplish goals slowly but surely. And it's saying, all I need to do is give me this time each day or this time each week to do this particular thing. And in time, whether it's a month from now, 2 months from now, 1 year from now, I'll get to see great results because I just kept devoting this little bit amount of time to this thing rather than saying, man, I'm going to dedicate my life to this one goal.
Yeah.
Everything I do is about this one goal. The reality is I have to pay attention to a number of things. So I just need to split up my days to address these number of things in little ways, slowly but surely. And I definitely have seen the fruit of that. Super grateful for that. It's not easy because it does take discipline. You do have to block out things. You do have to remember things. You can set alarms. And this is why I talk about time and schedules. You can set alarms on your phone. You can get apps that give you reminders or help you to like set goals and things like that. And then you also have to set boundaries with people because people may want to call you. They may say, hey, I'm going to be free this time of day. You know, when are you free? And you guys say, oh, I'm not going to be free at that time. I'm free at this time. Because at that time, I told myself I'm going to write. I told myself I'm going to dedicate it to business or whatever. So all that to say is we have to set these boundaries in order to keep our time commitments. We also have to set budgets in order to be able to purchase or save the things that we want to save, so that we can ultimately purchase the things that we want to, have the things that we want to have, and not look at the bank account and go, we're in trouble. You know what I mean? And so schedules even. And so all of that has been super effective and important for me in different times of my life. Like I said, I have been one to try to focus all my energy on one thing and see other things fall apart. You know, focus all my energy on my physical health, and then I'm not really spending time with my wife, and we're not really kicking it. Or I spend all my time with my wife, and I'm sitting here like, dude, my stomach is just growing. Yeah. You know, and so there has to be some type of boundaries and time to say, hey, look, we're gonna kick it. We're gonna do all that stuff later on. All that's gonna happen when I'm done. And when I'm done, I'm free, I'm good. What's up? Where y'all want to go? Let's do it all. Yeah. You know? But that's gonna be super critical. And so whether we're talking about business or not, let's make sure that we're setting some type of schedules, setting some type of accountability for ourselves and for others, with others, if we possibly can. Like we talked about with communities, if we can share these with some friends or share these with some folks online, that can help us to go, hey, you said you're going to stick to this. Let's make sure that we're sticking to it together. I need to improve that area of my life as well. So let me also join you in this. That's something that I have done with finances. I have done that with fitness. Been like, hey, like I'm trying to make this happen with my life. Is anybody else trying to make it happen? Let's try it, because honestly, being accountable to somebody can be super hard, but we could try. Let's give it a shot. Maybe we're going to stay in touch. We might not be friends anymore, but let's try it and see if we can possibly hold each other accountable, be nice to each other, and reach our goals. Because it does get choppy. Some people will so disappoint you that you're like, why are we hanging out? Yeah. Why? Or they're so on top of you that you're like, I need you to back up. Like, give me some space. All that to say is there can be people that can help us, and we just have to both go through the slings and arrows of finding the right people to support us in our goals, and we can support them in theirs. So yeah, I'll stop there. Really just want to touch on those things, and I know that in the next number of, we'll do the quiz and stuff about this next week, but in the next number of weeks, these things will continue to keep coming up, I'm sure. Don't forget about yourself. Don't forget about your finances. Don't forget about your health. Don't forget about your relationships. Make sure that even though you got this big project or this dream, you want to make a company, you want to make a organization, that you aren't letting everything else fall apart, because it will show up. You probably can't make it because, like you said, this came up, that came up. Yeah, I knew this was going wrong with my car, but I wasn't paying attention to it, and now the car is just completely done. And I've been in that space before too. So definitely pay into it all.
I tried sometime, I don't know.